Good morning, everyone, and welcome to RRAR's Government Affairs and Advocacy Forum. My name is Brett Bushnell, and I'm the 2021 president for the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. Thank you to everyone for joining us today for our Advocacy 101 webinar. For those of you who don't know, advocacy is one of the most important benefits that we offer to our members as an association. This was never clearer than the past year when real estate was deemed an essential business throughout stay-at-home orders. The same cannot be said for our counterparts across the country. And it's thanks to the efforts of our association leaders and advocacy staff that we are able to continue to help our clients achieve the dreams of home ownership. RRAR Advocacy is a team that is always at work to make sure that we are protecting you and your clients. As you can probably guess, advocacy programs like ours have a lot of moving parts. And today we are sharing with you some of the ways RRAR Advocacy and the Realtor Party protect private property rights and your business. To start us off, I have the honor of introducing our first speaker, NAR Realtor Party Director, Kevin Brown. Kevin is the broker owner of Better Homes Realty and Brown Commercial Investment Real Estate Services. Mr. Brown is a second-generation realtor with over 42 years of experience servicing clients in Oakland, Berkeley, and surrounding Bay Area cities. He specializes in residential and commercial real estate sales. Kevin also has extensive expertise in investment property brokerage and management. His past clients include residential buyers and sellers, banks, institutional investors, large trusts, law firms, the city of Berkeley, smaller individual investors, and the U.S. Marshal Service. That's a bunch. Kevin has spent over 2 decades studying and helping to create public policy at the state, local, and national level to protect consumer interests and preserve real property rights. Mr. Brown is called upon to testify before Congress on tax and GSE reform, and in 2014 served as the president of the California Association of Realtors, the largest trade association in the United States. Thank you for joining us, Kevin, and without further ado, Kevin Brown.
Hey, thank you very much. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here this morning. And I don't usually get up and start my day at 6 o'clock, which is the time I woke up this morning, and it's a little after 7 on the West Coast, but it's such an honor and pleasure to be here. I've never been to Raleigh, and I hope to get there one day. Sometimes I just hate doing these meetings via Zoom, but it's the next best thing. You know, we all have been really impacted by this COVID-19 crisis and pandemic, the shutdown, and I just hope you guys are doing well back there, and I hope to see you soon. I know how RPAC is important to all of you, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my own personal story and why it's important to me, and what really snagged me when it came time to invest my money in RPAC. And I'd have to go back to 2012. My brother and I in California, we owned an investment property, and we decided to go out of state because of some of the restrictions and rent control and just cause for eviction, some of the other things that we were dealing with. And we decided to invest in Portland, Oregon. So we sold some property in California, did a 1031 tax deferred exchange, moved to Portland, Oregon. It was great. It was a beautiful property. It was called Ivy Lake. And the only problem was it had a lake. And if anybody's ever been to the Pacific Northwest, you know how much it rains there. And we needed flood insurance. Well, at that same time, the bill Biggart's Waters, if you were in business and remember, was passed by Congress back in 2012, the same time period. We had to get flood insurance. Our flood insurance was about $21,000 per year. When Biggart's Waters came in, it was authored by Judy Biggart, I believe, of Illinois, and Maxine Waters from California. Those two representatives, what their intent was, there were 2 basic things, and one was to change the premium rate from subsidized rate to the actuarial rate for properties that were in targeted areas or at-risk areas. And so that was one thing. And then, of course, to increase the national flood insurance for another 5 years to extend it. So that bill was implemented, and FEMA blew the implementation around 2014 when insurance premiums started to come up for renewal. Our insurance went from $21,000 to $90,000 a year. If you can believe the visceral reaction I had when I opened that envelope, I almost passed out. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And so just coincidentally at that same time, NAR happened to be lobbying Congress. They knew about these increases and how FEMA had blown the implementation. And they went to Maxine Waters and asked our state to actually talk to her as well. And they went to Judy Biggart. And right around 2014 in the springtime when nothing was being passed by Congress. It was quite a contentious time. If you remember, President Barack Obama was president and nothing was moving through Congress. We were just kind of stalled. But during that period of time, we, NAR, was able to get that bill rescinded. And the Housing Homeowner Affordability Act of 2014 was passed. It was rescinded. It was only about a 2 or 3 month period between I got my bill and this was rescinded. Our insurance went down to $28,000 a year. So it went from 20 to 90. And then a couple months later, after the bill was passed, it went down to $28,000 a year. I never again questioned or even thought about questioning making my donations to RPAC. It was just awesome what happened. And of course, just as a side note, we did a 1031 exchange when we purchased that property. And during that period of time, or actually 2017, that when tax reform was occurring, the 1031 was actually off the table. Once again, NAR went back to work with Congress to put that back on the table, and it had a significant impact on my business and many others. And I guess the lessons learned from this, you never know what issue is going to crop up and how it's going to impact you. But whatever that issue is, NAR has been there. We kind of take a holistic and global approach to dealing with these issues. And there's a myriad of issues that we're constantly dealing with to either push back, repeal, or have new legislation to make things better for home ownership and for property rights. So that's the lesson I learned from it. It's a fantastic organization. I hope that you guys will continue to invest. And if you're a new investor, kudos to you. And we'll talk a little bit about that more later. So right now, what I like to spend the remainder of my time talking about is advocacy and the COVID-19 relief bill. And last December, congressional leaders struck a deal on a nearly $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill to bring new round of support to millions of Americans. The bill contains many priorities championed by NAR, including rental assistance, a fresh round of funding, and simplified forgiveness for SBA loans and more direct payments to Americans. NAR has fought for rental assistance since the last major COVID-19 relief bill was passed in April 2020. It will bring instant relief to mom and pop property owners and American families who are in danger of going over the financial cliff. The bill also ensures continued access for realtors to unemployment and small business assistance. 1 in 5 members took out PPP loans. We made sure that Congress knew these items were critical to America's 1.4 million realtors and the economy as a whole. Speaking about our advocacy wins in reference to COVID-19 relief, and specifically the bill provides a new round of direct stimulus payments of $600 to most Americans, including dependents. It also extends all employment assistance, including the pandemic unemployment assistance, through April 19th, 2021, with a $300 weekly boost in payments through March 14th. These benefits continue to be extended to the self-employed. It provides an additional $284 billion for Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loans, and $20 billion for economic injury disaster loans and grants. It allows certain eligible businesses to receive a second PPP loan. It creates a simplified forgiveness process for most PPP borrowers and allows for deductibility of business expenses paid for with the PPP funds. It provides $25 billion to states for rental assistance through September 30th, 2022, and allows landlords to apply for funds on behalf of the tenant. It includes payments for rent in areas as well as utilities and other expenses related to housing. It extends federal eviction ban through January 31st, 2021, and President Biden has extended this eviction ban until at least March 30th, 2021, and probably that's going to continue to be a floating date depending on how we're recovering from COVID and how the economy is doing. In 2020, Realtor Advocacy also secured full fiscal year extensions of the National Flood Insurance Program. It ensured independent contractors were eligible for stimulus funds for the first time ever, and that was absolutely amazing that they did that. And it supported the Paycheck Protection Program, corrected bills to provide greater flexibility for small businesses. Other advocacy wins, the government funding bill included with the COVID relief bill also contains several items of importance to NAR, including extensions to a group of tax breaks known as tax extenders, some permanently and for multiple years, and increase in fair housing funding, a 2-year expansion of the business meal deduction, extensions and expansions of the employee retention tax credit, permanent extensions to Section 179D, deduction for energy efficient commercial buildings, and I don't know if you know what 179D was, but if you do own a commercial building or have clients that own a commercial building, they get between, I think, $60 and $1.80 per square foot tax credit if you retrofit your building with certain fixtures and energy efficient lights and windows and so forth. The 5-year extension of the mortgage debt forgiveness exclusion expanded and improved low-income housing tax credit. In terms of rental assistance, NAR fought hard for months to secure rental assistance, which will bring instant relief to mom and pop property owners and the American families who are in danger of going over the financial cliff. NAR's research found that 38% of realtors owned at least one rental property, and more than 40% of rental units nationally are owned by mom and pop owners. So it's not just the big guys. There's a large chunk that are owned by just little mom and pop people like me and hopefully a lot of you. Without rental income, it is increasingly difficult for housing providers to pay their mortgage, taxes, insurance, and other expenses. Through the prohibition on eviction, it ensures that American renters will not be allowed to go homeless. This temporary solution could make the housing situation less stable and more unsustainable in the long run. The eviction moratorium does not remove a renter's ultimate obligation to pay rent. In short, property owners are being left with no relief from their financial obligations as renters face ever-increasing debt. The best and perhaps only way to bring relief to American renter households without creating another crisis for property owners is through rental assistance. The rental assistance included in the last COVID relief bill will help thousands of struggling Americans avoid eviction while also ensuring property owners are protected from the resulting loss of income. NAR has been fighting hard on this issue for months to ensure this public health crisis does not also become a housing crisis. Our advocacy agenda for 2021 is quite robust. We're not resting on our laurels in 2021. Our advocacy team is already working to build on our incredible work that we just did in 2020. You've seen in the news that President Biden is working with Congress to pass further COVID relief. NAR is committed to assisting President Biden and the new Congress as we seek to heal our national strength and nationally strengthen our economy. This continues our 113-year tradition of working with every Congress and presidential administration, which is very important because we're a bipartisan organization. We look forward to partnering with many of our common goals, including policies that will advance and expand the American dream of homeownership, address housing affordability and accessibility, and promote fair housing and racial equality. In the coming months, we'll continue to advocate for additional COVID relief and a wide slate of realtor priorities, including tax incentives for homeownership, construction of affordable housing, preserving the 1031 like-one exchange, and more inclusive national housing policies. We're eager to find opportunities to work together with elected officials on policies that advance homeownership. For example, President Biden's $15,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit proposal could particularly help for minority homebuyers and millennials who have struggled to save for a down payment while juggling student loan payments and relentless housing price growth across the country. No matter what comes our way next, NAR will keep fighting for us in Washington so that we can focus on our clients, our businesses, and our communities. A lot of us have inventory concerns, and we have a huge inventory and supply and demand problem back here in California, but you can pretty much find that throughout the country with home prices climbing alongside sales numbers. NAR is working with lawmakers to develop policy solutions that address our national affordability and accessibility challenges. Total housing inventory continues to decline to record lows, supplies at the current sales price. Ultimately, housing demand is as strong as we've ever seen it. Home builders should be commended for ramping up supply over the past few months, but there is still clear need for even more production in virtually every part of the country. As long as supply isn't matching demand over a prolonged period of time, we will continue to see affordability constraints worsen and eventually begin to hinder homeownership opportunities for everybody in America. NAR will continue to push policymakers to recognize the urgent need to promote additional housing supply. Efforts include incentivizing workers to the construction industry through tax credits for training, reducing tariffs on lumber and steel, and re-examining local zoning regulations. NAR also supports tax credits to reduce costs of converting unused commercial property to residential units. In terms of RPAC, we ask you to invest in RPAC. The strength of RPAC is why NAR is America's most influential trade association. We are the best, without question, hands down. RPAC is the backbone of the Realtor Party. It promotes and protects the real estate industry. Your investment in RPAC demonstrates your commitment to our profession, your livelihood, and yourself. Your investment in RPAC ensures our ability to evaluate proposed legislation and regulations and how they impact our customers and clients. Your investment ensures RPAC representatives can effectively lobby in Washington, D.C., and in state legislatures and city halls throughout the United States. Your investment ensures we can defend critical real estate-friendly policies like the 30-year mortgage and the mortgage interest deduction. Your investment ensures that 100% health insurance deduction for independent contractors is protected. It also ensures that programs like FHA, single-family insurance, and VA home loans remain attainable and effective for prospective home buyers across America. It's only $15 to invest in RPAC. I hope you guys step up and invest more. This organization does so much for our business, our industry, and our livelihood. And it's just a pleasure being here today. And thanks a lot.
Well, Kevin, that was great. I was saying while you're offline, that was a phenomenal update on all the federal pieces and all the COVID relief and other pieces of legislation that are coming through. Your story about the flood insurance and that jumping up so much on you guys and then being able to bring it back down to something that was more manageable really shows how the advocacy efforts protect property owners and make things work basically for the real estate industry and for private property ownership in the country. Thank you so much for joining us. If you can stick around, we're going to do Q&A at the end, but I understand you're a busy man if you have to leave.
Okay, thanks.
So next up in our lineup, we have the wonderful Wendy Harris, who was smarter than me today because she brought her new RPAC mug. I got named Ed Wilson, but that's another, she's got it all. Look at all the swag. Oh, Leslie. All right. I need the memo. Y'all got to get me the memo. I've got the big mason jar I'm drinking water out of over here. Anyways, well, Wendy Harris is a second generation realtor. She's the owner of Team Harris Real Estate and has been actively involved in real estate since 2001. She graduated from St. Andrews College in 1993 with a BA in international business and a minor in Spanish. She is a licensed broker, accredited buyer's representative, certified international property specialist, certified residential specialist, and military relocation professional. Also a notary public and has hosted a live radio show for the past decade. And she's also just phenomenal. So thank you, Wendy. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you for that, Brett. I appreciate that. This is a great, I was looking at the attendees that are in the room. So we're speaking to people who already have some knowledge and some experience and some engagement. I recognize a lot of names on the call. So we'll not make this too much of a 101, but we will do a quick review and kind of to a little bit of sort of background and who does what and then, end it with a little bit more of how to do more. So let's just go ahead and advance the slide, Jordan, if you're the magic person behind the screens making it all happen. So members really are the driving force of everything. It's all the way from the local up to the federal level. And that doesn't take away from from what the staff is there to do either. But our membership is really key to a lot of this happening. It's incredible to understand when you really, really get engaged and get involved on that, on the real level of where you're standing in rooms and talking to people, the difference that it can make between a member carrying a message forward and a staff person carrying a message forward, or even a lobbyist carrying a message forward, because those are all tools in our tool chest, and they all have very important places when it comes to advocacy and getting our message out there. I loved Kevin's story, not just about the flood insurance, but also about the 1031. And I also love how Kevin introduced with that and led with it, because it came across as though that was almost his start of awareness on that scale of how these things were impacting him, but also how he had a story to tell. My story started with a terrifying situation that I had with a transaction in Hope County with what would be called a privately maintained road by the state of North Carolina. Now, in North Carolina, we've coined our own phrase, as many of you have heard, and we call those roads orphaned roads. They are roads that have fallen through the cracks, where bonds and paperwork have never been completed, where states don't maintain the roads, the counties don't maintain the roads, and they don't fall within a municipality that maintains the road. And although they have that wonderful green street sign up, the reality is in 20 years, it's going to be full of potholes, and there's no pot of money to repave or make those roads safe. And now school buses, ambulances, and FEMA trucks will not go down those roads. And so I had a scary situation where was headed to closing on a house, and just a few days before closing, we were informed we needed a private road maintenance agreement on this particular piece of property. Well, there wasn't one. One didn't exist. It turned out that this road was an orphaned road. And as many of us know, in North Carolina, there is not a database or a source of information where you can go research those things. And that was a problem as well. Now, I was working very, very hard to create a private road maintenance agreement and get homeowners to sign off on this so that the buyer's loan could close. I was representing the seller. And in the middle of me working hard on this, I got a call from the attorney saying, "Hey, come get your commission check. The transaction's closed." And instead of getting happy about it, I got terrified with what was happening. And I ended up calling our state legal counsel to say, does it make me liable if I go get my commission check on this transaction? Because as far as I'm concerned, this loan can't close. From the knowledge I have. So I won't go any further into it, other than to let you know that that was a really terrifying week for me on many fronts. And what happened was what happened from that was it made me start showing up at meetings where I was asking questions. And so that became my flood story that Kevin's sharing. And it really made me go to different meetings and figure it out. I didn't know that I had a voice. I didn't know that I had really a point or a message, but I started attending things like risk management meetings. And then I ended up in legislative committee meetings. And these are just as observers. And I was just taking every moment I had to say, hey, is anyone else talking about, these roads, these mystery roads that no one takes care of because we didn't really have a word for it yet. And this type of situation. And years later, with a whole bunch of people getting behind it, because as you start talking about it, you find other people who are experiencing those exact same things. Bruce Gates and I, Bruce out of Goldsboro, and I were boots on the ground for many years up there in Raleigh, sort of walking through the legislative building, asking more questions and digging in and finding out what issues were, and working with our lobbyists and working with the staff, and then also reaching across the state to other members who were having these same issues and getting their same stories. And there's some great local success stories about dealing with orphaned roads. Of course, we have some really good those are local issues. We've got some great state resolutions that we've gotten to, and it's still a story that's continuing. But the main point that I got from that and from Kevin's story is to find your story. Find something that resonates with you, and that's your door to actually being that member that engages in on that issue. Now, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, which is the interesting one that I had to do a lot of learning up on, which is that's the staff's role. Okay, I'm one of those people who, when I jump into something, I jump in 150%. And I had to learn really quickly that in advocacy, although it was real important, if I wanted to share my story, I needed to know more about the story that I was talking about. I couldn't just know my perspective of it. I needed to know lots of other perspectives. It doesn't mean I had to be the person who figured all of that out. So on a staff level, I know there in Raleigh, you've got fantastic staff. So I'm sure this is going to speak at a Raleigh level as well as on a state level, in that, rely on them. If you've got a question or need to figure things out, don't think you can't just reach out to them and say, hey, I've got a question on this. Can you give me some background? And then once you get information, dig through it and ask more questions. It really adds to the entire conversation. And so I learned in a very powerful way the value that Katie brings to the table when it comes to an issue. Even if it's something she doesn't know about, I'll tell you what, Katie suddenly became a #1 expert on the state level of orphaned roads. And then we brought in Seth, and then we brought in, we ended up with multiple staff people working on this issue over several years. And they became the experts, but also gave me all the information I needed to do to go around and have the conversations that I needed to have, that Bruce needed to have, that, any of the members out there needed to have on whatever issue they're talking about. Then also, that was as far as collecting information. When it came to getting the message out, of course, that takes the entire village as well. So that's where you start looking at your local GAD, your regional GAD, your government affairs staff, your committee members. When it went to, on that particular issue or on other issues, healthcare, homeowners insurance issues we deal with on the state level, it's about making sure you're reaching out to the membership and hearing people's stories, because you need to bring those stories in as well. And so all of that really feeds into the staff being that organizational collective branch, sorting through the information, and then also working on disseminating that information to the membership and also pulling in more stories for people. So staff has a vital role in all of this. The last slide I've got has to do with the members' real role on this. And there's so many different levels to membership engagement. I know that locally you've got some really great heroes in Raleigh who have engaged on certain issues. You have a long history of that. And you will have maybe a particular personality who sort of becomes who's known behind an issue, or that you hear an issue and then you sort of pair it with that particular person. And sometimes that does happen, but the reality is there's a lot of people behind every issue. If the staff are able to find a few members who have a story to tell, and that they can trust on a couple of levels, trust to #1, absorb additional information other than just their own story, but also be able to relate that story and information in a consistent, impassioned way that gets it heard, then you will find that person becomes a go-to person on that issue and possibly other issues. So if you're on this call, you're already engaged on some level, you already have an interest in something. And so what I would encourage you to do is say, okay, what is my comfort level? Where do I feel that I fit into this piece of advocacy? Do I have my own story that I need to tell? Does that story need to be heard? And does my story benefit either the cause or the membership, or just the staff in moving forward with this issue? And it's always helped me to think of it that way, because although most people who hear me talk think that that's just what I do, and I like to talk, I don't like to talk unless I feel as though I'm contributing to something. Other than that, I really like to sit back and learn and observe and do a lot of research. So I would encourage all of you to say, okay, if you've got something that can add to the conversation, don't sit there quietly. If you're not sure if what you have will or will not contribute to the conversation, still don't sit there quietly. You may feel more comfortable going to staff and saying, hey, I've got this. Is this a valuable part to add to this story? There really are great advocates that you can trust. And every staff member I've ever met that works in an advocacy role is always on the lookout for those realtor members who are desiring any type of engagement on any level. It is so useful and so helpful for them to have us come to them and just say, I'm here if you need me. I don't just want to be a name on this committee or sit here or just be a voice in a room when we do have meetings. I'm interested in engaging beyond that, because this issue or what we do is important. They will seize a hold of that and run with it. So it's not really hard, but sometimes you just need to, step up, raise your hand and say, I'm here for more than just. Couple of other little easy ways, and these are all messages that we need to get out there. Again, I think that this committee, the group that's on this call, is probably already a part of a lot of these things, but make sure each one of you is a member of the Homeowners Alliance. That is our grassroots effort. Also, please make sure you're encouraging all homeowners in your area to join it, whether they're your clients or they're just members of the community. Work on getting even, people who you're connected with, business owners, people who are sitting in leadership positions. If they join the Homeowners Alliance, then they'll be front and center of the things that we are making homeowners aware of statewide that impact their private property rights and have where big issues come up that impact them as homeowners, landlords, landowners, those types of things. Also, of course, if you're a realtor, make sure you, just like on the screen there, text NC Realtors to 30644. Those will be for our calls to action. You are not going to get those all the time. We save those for very important things. And the same thing with the Homeowners Alliance. It is not a way to spam or throw things at people. No one's stealing the client list, or you don't have to worry about anything like that. It's very, very specific. Those contacts are very well protected, and they do have a way to link them back to you as a realtor as well. If you're encouraging other people to sign on, you can have your own sign-on link for those things. Another way to engage, if you're a member and you want to do it in more of a official capacity, is through our political coordinator programs. Most associations, larger associations specifically, have those on a local level. We have our state political coordinators, SPCs, on the state level. And of course, there are also federal political coordinators on a federal level. I'm sure Kevin could answer any questions about that. I am an SPC. I've certainly worked on the local level as well. And those are relationships that you either currently have that you want to develop in a more concentrated way, or even if you want to start developing relationships, especially on the local level, these are very good roles to step into. And they are very active roles. Just this week, I was, speaking with a city council person here locally about the issues we're dealing with around the Market House here in Fayetteville. And I am not even someone who votes for this person, but because of my involvement and my engagement, this person will call me up and just say, I just want your take on this. I know you deal with different things in the community. Just give me some perspective. Also this week, I got a call from the state level saying, hey, Wendy, we really need you to make a phone call and see if you can just get some sort of political dynamic background between something that happened on Tuesday of this week on the state level. And those are the types of things that as you, if you step into these roles of being a coordinator, that you'll get asked to be a part of on the local, state, and federal level. And it's about those really close conversations where you can call up an elected official, reach out to them. They know you're going to take your call, probably weekends or evenings, even during business hours, whenever it may be, and just say, hey, I need your help, or I need perspective, or I need some background information on this, or is this, if I were to throw this out to you, what's your perspective? So it doesn't always get that, people are asking you for your perspectives, but it also gives you that opportunity to reach out in a very personal way and just say, what's a perspective on this from your situation as well. I think that's probably, I can stop there for now. There might be some questions that come up that take us down a couple of rabbit holes in the Q&A section. But other than that, I'll turn it back over to you, Brett.
Thank you, Wendy. No, that was great. We'll do Q&A at the end. If you can stick around, that'd be phenomenal. Your private roads piece, that story rang so true to me. I've had it multiple times myself. And so the work you did at the state was excellent. Phenomenal victory for us. The SPC and FPC, I'm a state political coordinator. Leslie's a federal political coordinator, and we are rolling out local SPCs here too. So that's a big piece to get connected. And yeah, I mean, just great reminder how many connections we can make and what we can do, not only us, but for our clients with the Homeowners Alliance. So really great information there. Really appreciate you coming and speaking today and sharing. And if you can stick around, that'd be great. Okay, so up next we have Margaret Sophie. We're going to hear from our local Raleigh Regional Association advocacy leaders. We're really proud of the work that we do here locally at RRAR, and these next speakers lead the way for that advocacy work. Start us off, we have Margaret Sophie, our 2021 Governmental Policies and Issues Committee Chair, who's going to share with us an overview of her committee and its role within RRAR. Margaret, please take it away.
Thanks, Brett. Good morning, everyone. I'm both honored and excited to chair this very important committee. This year, Raleigh Regional reimagined our Government Affairs Committee and created the Government Policies and Issues Committee, otherwise known as GPIC. It's made up of 21 members, and we hold business meetings every other month. In the off months, GPIC hosts government affairs and advocacy forums like the one we are on now. These are open to all the members and are designed to educate members on our advocacy work, as well as provide vital information about things going on in our area. Last week, we hosted our first GAA forum featuring staff from Wake County, who presented the new Wake County Comprehensive Plan for our feedback. GPIC is committed to providing these opportunities through our government affairs to our members throughout the year. GPIC is also responsible for creating RRAR's policy positions. These policy positions are the basis of all our advocacy work as an association. Our lobbying staff and our political coordinators work to achieve these policy positions and further our legislative priorities. RRAR's community grant program also runs through our committee. This grant program is a great way for us to partner with local leaders to help improve our communities. This is a way that our association is able to fulfill our goal to be a partner in this cultivation of vibrant communities in Wake and Harnett counties. GPIC is also a key part of Raleigh Regional's candidate interview process. We partner with the Realtors PAC committee to make sure that we identify realtor champions who are running for office, which you will hear more about next. Jordan, can you please share the screens, your slide presentation?
Yep, we've had it up going with you the whole time, so they were able to follow along with you.
Oh, excellent. And if there's any questions, feel free later in our meeting, you can put something in the chat. Jordan and I are very happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. That was a great overview. Next up, we're going to hear from my right-hand woman and who has hit the ground running this year, the phenomenal Leslie Williams. She is serving as president-elect, but also as our Realtor PAC chair. Leslie, I know you've got good news for us. You always bring a smile to everyone's face. Please take it away.
Well, thank you very much, President Bushnell. I am so excited to chair the RPAC committee this year and to partner with the GPIC, as Margaret has just spoke about. Our advocacy work is the foundation of what we do in the Realtor PAC. And when we thought, when we were planning our year, to bring information to our membership, the Advocacy 101 was one of the things that stood out because we felt that if we could get our members on board with the work that was happening to continue to protect our industry, our homeowners, and how we are able to operate within the real estate industry. And so we want to be partners with you. And we are looking forward to having more of these forums come to you to educate you about policy positions such as Kevin Brown had talked about and Wendy. It's very complicated matters that are happening on the national, state, and local level. And so we're all really busy and we don't have the time to read the papers, to look at the bills that are coming out. So that's why the work, the advocacy work is so important, and to have us to invest in that advocacy work, one, with our time and our commitment and trust to our leaders who are doing the work on the front lines for us every day. So I'm going to move on to just sort of talking just one-to-one to you as members. And those of you who are here, please make sure that you share with those who are not in your offices and other colleagues who are not here today about the important work that we're doing here for you, because I consider myself to be the member champion. So the Realtor PAC is a nonpartisan group of realtors. So we want to make sure that that information is out there because there is some miscommunication that, you know, it's partisan politics, and that's not what we're doing here. And as you heard from everyone else, the work that we're doing impacts our industry and our homeowners. So the Realtor PAC is a group of realtors who join together to protect property rights and to promote homeownership. Who do we support in the PAC? We support candidates solely based on their stance for realtor issues. Candidates are not judged on their personal party affiliation, but their representation for the party. And we deem those candidates realtor champions. Jordan, if you can put up the slide for me, please, for the COVID-19 relief. So some of the things that we've done this year to keep us essential through the pandemic is we kept working. We successfully lobbied the governor to designate real estate as an essential business in the state during the stay-at-home order. So that's one of the pieces of legislation that we fought on. There was hundreds of hours done from our state representatives and also from us here locally. Relationships are very important. And so as we know in our business, when we're dealing with our clients, those relationships that we build for them to refer us, and also for us to be in front of those legislators and policymakers to let them know what our issues are. And that takes time and commitment. And so that's the reason why we invest and support the PAC, because we cannot do our work if we're not at the table having a conversation with these individuals. And we must set aside our personal politics in this matter because we are looking at the whole body, the collective, on what we need to do as an industry. So I always want to make sure that I continue to reiterate that, because when we come together with a unified message, not a single message, but a unified message. So as a result of us staying essential during the pandemic, I mean, I know for myself that when we heard that we had to stay in place and that the country was shutting down, you know, the first thing I thought about was, okay, how am I going to be able to feed my family? That if I'm going to still be able to work and conduct my business. So right there alone, that encourages me and inspires me to be part of the movement and part of the discussion and to continue to support the Realtor PAC. We've also did things like, for example, supported landlords and tenants. We're leading the stakeholder effort to secure funds to assist homeowners and renters that have been impacted by the COVID-19. So again, you know, these are just some pieces of legislation that we worked on just in 2020 and that we're still continuing to work on. So what I'm going to do, as I always do, is ask you to continue to support us and our advocacy efforts here locally in Raleigh, and that either myself or Jordan or anyone on this call would love to be able to talk to you more about how that impacts you, how you can assist us in our advocacy work, And I thank you for your time today. And as always, be blessed. Thank you, President Bushnell.
Thank you very much, President-elect Williams. That was excellent. Really appreciate you joining us. We'll do Q&A at the end. The final piece of our advocacy program that we want to touch on today is our work with community organizations. It's important to RRAR that we work with our municipalities, not only to protect our members and their clients, but also to better our communities. That is where our Director of Community Relations, Melissa Kaloje, comes in. Melissa, share with everyone a little bit about what you do with the association, please.
Thanks, Brett. And thanks to Margaret and Jordan for inviting me to kind of give a little more detail about what I do here at the association and why we, from a staff perspective, feel like it is so important. So I did actually prepare a couple of slides for it, so please bear with me. And so first off, I just wanted to kind of share my contact information. I love hearing from our members. So if you ever want to connect with me about anything that I've discussed here today, I strongly encourage you to do so. You're probably wondering why community engagement is such an important and vital part of what we do here at the association. We kind of say that I come in and build those important partnerships and relationships with different groups across the community so that Jordan and our policy folks can come in and kind of ask those difficult questions and advocate for things that we feel are vital to you all and to your clients that you serve. So I partner with groups like Chambers of Commerce. They represent our small business community, and we know from working with real estate and realtors that small businesses are vital to the communities that we serve. So we really want to make sure that we have a strong foothold in those areas to make sure that we have an ear to the ground in what's going on in our communities and what's important to those folks. Jordan does represent our kind of policy side from the association and works really well with our elected officials, but I do partner with her, with our municipalities in making sure that we have strong partnerships with them. You know, so we come in and I work with them on like grant opportunities to bring the feel-good stories to our communities. I also work closely with Casey Angel on our international footprint. We are the ambassador association to NAR India. And so part of my job is making sure that we bring that global awareness back to our communities here in Wake and Harnett County. We do have a very strong Indian population. So we want to figure out how we can best serve that community as well. We partner with other groups like Habitat for Humanity, other housing groups. And then a big part of kind of where we want to move forward in the future is tapping into our colleges and universities. We have a great university system here at our disposal. And so we really want to figure out how we can tap into that area, you know, whether it's making sure that students have somewhere to live, you know, and then making sure that if they want to stay in this area, and say that they are from outside of the jurisdiction that we serve, if they want to stay here, that they have the ability to do so after college. And so we're really exploring ideas on how we can partner with our local colleges and universities to further our efforts. Like I mentioned, kind of right off the bat, I want to hear more from our members. We're still getting this program up and running, the Chamber Liaison Program. And so I am working to kind of tag a member for each chamber that we work with. We do have memberships with all 12 chambers in Wake County, excuse me. And so I want to make sure that we have a member representative that can kind of tag team with me on our chamber memberships to make sure that we have that member representation there alongside of me. As always, we encourage you to continue to attend our events and webinars. That's how you're going to learn about what we're doing here at the association. We've done a great job of transitioning to this virtual world that we all live in, but also making these webinars on demand. So if you're not able to be with us virtually in person at the time that everything happens, we do make most of our webinars accessible after the fact. So please just continue to educate yourself and stay up to date on what we are all working on. And then most importantly, if you are involved in a community organization, if you're doing work in your community, I want to hear about it. If you know of an agent in your office that is really connected in the community and is doing great work in the community, I want to hear about that as well, because if there is another organization that we can get involved in, we certainly want to do that, but we also want to be able to highlight the work that our members are doing. And so there's a lot of you, of course, and we don't know obviously everything that is going on. And so I want to connect with more of our members and figure out what it is that you all are doing, what you all find important outside of your everyday job as a realtor. So please connect with me. I would love to hear from you all. And again, thank you for inviting me to share a little bit about my world at the association. So I think I'm going to hand it back to either Brett or Jordan.
I'm going to take it back real quick, Melissa. That was great. The left and right lung working together to power the heart of the Realtor Party. Our advocacy in City Hall has to match our strength and support of the communities and the quality of life. So that was phenomenal. And those weren't my words. That was from our CEO, Sims. I will not steal his thunder, but that was a great piece he just put in. But Leslie Williams, she left something. She left a teaser for later. I don't know what she was doing here, but she has a little more surprise good news. So I'm going to toss it back to Leslie for 1 minute.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I want to share with you that 2,511 participants here in Raleigh are committed to what we're doing in the PAC. And that has resulted in $86,220.20. And we're at 26.76 participation. And we have not yet had a fundraiser. You guys better watch out. Thank you.
The number is great. The participation level is phenomenal. So excellent work. I like to call it the Leslie Williams effect, but Jordan is working. We're all working hard, but you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. I'm going to toss it over to Jordan, but one great thing that came out of all our advocacy efforts last night, the Raleigh City Council announced, we had a nice big win, that they're repealing the short-term rental ban, and they're going to allow short-term rentals, not just renting out a room in your house, but actually whole house rentals. There's still some caveats, but this is a huge win, and we could not have done it without our advocacy on the local level. So let's give a big round of applause to all the volunteers and the state. Great job. And now I'm going to toss it over to Jordan, and I believe she's going to facilitate some Q&A.
Yeah, well, thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you to Brett for being our master of ceremonies today. We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, please just drop them in the Q&A section. We do have one, and they're asking for us to share 3 pieces of legislation that NCR or GPIC seek to achieve in 2021. And Kevin, I'm sure you have some legislative priorities that you're working on at the federal level. I'll just really quickly share some of the priorities. NCR published their legislative priorities. So Wendy, if you want to share them, you can, or I have them pulled up right here and I can share them. You can jump in if you'd like, but we at the state level are focused on expanding remote online notarization. As you know, we got an emergency order put in place so that we could have those last year, but this is not a long-term solution to the problem. So we're looking to expand that legislation. We're also working on that housing relief fund to provide support for renters and for landlords. COVID has obviously hurt a lot of people's bottom line, and we want to make sure that people are not removed from their homes, but we also want to make sure that landlords are taken care of. We understand that landlords are sometimes looked at as big companies and conglomerations, but sometimes it's just normal individuals who just own one property and are renting it out. And we want to make sure that those homeowners are protected as well. We're also looking at broadband expansion. If you guys have been on any RRAR calls, you know this is something we really care about here locally. Our CEO, Andrew Sims, is always telling us how important this is. So we will be right there with the state lobbying for this. It's really important, especially in this COVID climate where students are at home, that we're able to provide broadband expansion across North Carolina. Wendy, did I touch on all that correctly?
Yes, no, the only thing I'd like to add to that is just in a broad sense, just so that everyone is aware, the legislative agenda for the state is quite extensive. And so those three are sort of what I would say are our headline issues. We have perennial issues that we are always monitoring. Okay, it is everything from environmental issues that may impact real estate to taxation of services to, I mean, we have a broad perennial, but those are our three top ones. And the way we get to those is through our lobbyists and our staff and our members, not only what is important, but also what we think we might be able to impact during a particular session, during a political climate, those types of things. So if anyone's wondering how we get there and why certain other issues may not be in those headline issues, then that has to do with strategy as well. And so just good on those things. Also, the one thing on the homeowner on rental assistance, that sounds like a really, really broad thing. Specifically, for instance, this week and next week, we've just had companion bills passed by the House and Senate that are talking about how to use the federal funds coming down. And of course, that includes the rental assistance stuff. We know that part of the problem with the rental assistance is not that the money's not there, but how it's getting dispersed. And so the what we work on within an issue may actually be very specific instead of broad, even though, again, the headline topic is rental assistance. So just a lot of, when you get behind the curtain, kind of, you can get into the weeds a bit with it, but it's also a fascinating process. So anyone who wants to get in the weeds, join, let us know.
And Kevin, do you have anything to share with us?
I would say these are the three big issues you want to know about. In my opinion, from the NAR perspective, anything that falls under that COVID-19 relief umbrella, including keeping realtors in the business of selling real estate, it was huge that we were able to be classified as an essential business service. I got a listing the day that we actually were shut down last March, and I really didn't know how I was going to sell the listing. We couldn't go inside the property. We couldn't show the property. Typically, somebody isn't going to buy a property if you can't see it or look inside. So RRAR was very instrumental in figuring that out. So it's essential that we stay at the center of the transaction and that we're able to operate in this kind of environment. That's the first thing. The second big issue, I would say, would be GSE reform. As you know, the Fannie and Freddie have been in conservatorship since 2008. About 13 years. There have been a lot of proposals to bring them out, some good and some bad, a lot of bad proposals. It's essential that we maintain the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Everybody doesn't have cash, and if you can't get a loan or a stable 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it's really going to hurt our market. And probably the third thing I would say is tax reform. It's kind of unprecedented that we would do tax reform twice. We did it the first time in 2018, or the Congress did it, and it hadn't been done in, I think, 36 years since when Ronald Reagan was president. To think that we're going to have to do this again, some type of tax reform, it's really unprecedented, as I said. So those are the three big issues, and it's just maintaining the 30-year fixed rate mortgage and also the mortgage interest rate deduction when it comes to tax reform, and that we're preserving the 1031 tax deferred exchange, which falls under that tax umbrella. So those are the three things that I see on NAR amidst all the other issues that we're dealing with.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We do have a question about some of the, exciting political events of January. Asking what the stance of our association is on those candidates who did object to the election results. does anyone want to take that one? I know I can say from an RPAC front, candidate funding for President Circle was paused as we all sort of see what's happening. You know, there's a lot going on in the political climate right now, and sometimes it's best to just, you know, wait and see. We don't have to do political funding right now. Luckily, that's just passed, so we can sort of let temperatures cool and see where we land in the future. But Kevin, you might have a better answer to that, or Wendy, not to put you on the spot.
I think Kevin's going to have a great answer to it. One thing that I would like to say that I've always been proud of Realtors is, you know, one of our focus is to be responsive and not reactionary. And you know, taking a pause, having temperatures cool, I don't ever want that to be interpreted as any reduction of passion on any level for a topic. But when big things happen, there is very much an important period where you say, okay, what is a reaction versus a response? And we can be impassioned about whatever our response is going to be, but it's going to also be an organized response to an issue and not just a reaction to it. So I'm very happy with what we've decided on the national and the state level, as far as just we have the benefit of time in our hands here because we are on an off cycle year. Kevin, what about you?
You know, I think that's very good, Wendy. You're correct, and I think there is nothing wrong with taking a pause. And you know, a lot of the issues and questions that are going to come up is, should we change the criteria in which we, you know, give money or donate to candidates? Maybe we should, but I think that one thing that realtors need to recognize is that train is going to leave the station whether or not we're on it or not. So Congress is going to continue to operate. Bills are going to continue to be signed. And the important thing is that we are at the table and that we have a voice.
Thank you. And I think, you know, we ended there with a bang, you know, the hard question. So those are all the questions I have. I just really want to thank everyone who joined us today. You guys are a big part of our advocacy work, not just our panelists, but also our members who are really behind the scenes, who are on these committees and who help us every day in what we're doing. We really appreciate you. And we could not do the work that we do as member leaders and as staff without all of our committee members who are really the driving force behind this. So we appreciate you guys joining us today. If you have any questions, you can always email me. My email address is jordanf@rrar.com. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions and pass along any questions to these people who know a lot more than I do at different levels. Wendy is always available, and I'm sure Kevin is as well. So thank you everybody for joining us. And if there's no other questions, we will let everybody run to lunch for us, to breakfast for Kevin. So thanks guys, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.